Hello, so nice to meet you at this motivational meeting, reading quotes from world scriptures. We're reading the book from the beginning. Please find all the chapters at our Message to Billions channel. And this is very powerful quote that helping billions of people globally will help you too. Nowadays we are reading about how to avoid great mistakes, and let's go the next chapter, God's painful struggle to save humankind. First quote, when man is sore troubled, the Hehayan say, how heavy is my head, how heavy is my arm. If God suffers so for the blood of the wicked, how much more for the blood of the righteous? O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, killing the prophet and stoning those who are sent to you. How often would I have gathered you children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you would not. In all the affliction he was afflicted. So God said to Moses, do you not notice that I dwell in the distress when the Israelites dwell in distress? No, from the place whence I speak with you, from the midst of thrones, the burning bush, it is as if I stand in their distress. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. The more I called them, the more they went from me. They kept sacrificing the Baals and burning incense to idols. Yet if it was I that taught Ephraim to walk, I took him up in my arms, but they did not know that I healed them. I led them with cords of compassion, with the bands of love, and I became to them as one who eased the yoke and their jaws. And I bent down to them and feed them. They enlightened one because he saw mankind drowning in the great sea of birth, death, and sorrow, and longed to save them. For this was moved to pity, because he saw the man of the world straying in false paths, and no one to guide them. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw that they lay wallowing in the mire of the five lusts, in dissolute abandonment. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw them still further to their wealth, their wives and their children, knowing not how to cast them aside. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw them doing evil with hand, heart, and tongue, and many times receiving the bitter fruits of sin, yet ever yielding to their desire. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw that they lacked the thirst of the five lords, as it were with the branch water. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw that thought that they longed for happiness, they made for themselves no karma of happiness, and thought they hated pain, yet willingly made for themselves a karma of pain. And though they covered the joys of the heaven, wouldn't not follow his commandments on earth. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw them afraid of death, old age, and death, yet still pushing the works that lead to death, old age, and death. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw them consumed by the fires of pain and sorrow, yet knowing not were to seek the still waters of Samadhi. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw them living in an evil times, subjected to tyrannous kings and suffering many ills, yet heedlessly following after pleasure. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw them living in a time of wars, killing and wounding one another, and knew that for the righteous hatred that had flourished in their hearts, they were doomed to pay an endless retribution. For this he was moved to pity, because many born at the time of his incarnation, he heard him preach the holy law, yet could not receive it. For this he was moved to pity, because some had great riches that they could not bear to give away. For this he was moved to pity, because he saw the men of the world plowing their fields, sowing in the seed, trafficking, hustling, buying and selling, and at the end winning nothing but bitterness. For this he was moved to pity. Further, let's read quotes from the Second Coming Messiah. Father, Reverend Son and Noon. It's a natural that we want to protect our loved one, even with our very life. Such is the original ideal of creation. The same is true for God, who loves his children. He became a sorrowful God who has had to invest his very life. I cannot count the day I spent in tears and lamentation after I came to know the world of God's inner heart. Who could ever dare to imagine that God was stricken with grief? He created the first human ancestor as his children and tried to raise them to be his eternal object partners in true love. Yet they took the path of the human fall. Who could imagine God's misery and humiliation, even as he walked his providence of salvation for tens of thousands of years? Anger exploded with him over the injustice of it all. His heart signed in lamentation, God should be the father on the king of glory, but the enemy Satan stole his throne and his position as parent. Although God is clearly alive and carrying out his providence, people say God is dead, and they mock and mistreat him. Still, he perseverance on the path with patient endurance, waiting for the day when human beings will come to understand this truth, because God conducts his providence on a foundation of true love, which call us to live for the sake of others and on the basis of eternity. He does not just annihilate the universe and begin again after seeing his children descend into the bottomless pit of the human fall, which the power of this his omniscience and omnipotence. He could have judged the world and Satan at once, smashing them to pieces. Though he has this power, he chooses to absorb all the contempt and accusation into himself. He voluntarily planted himself in the prison-like environment because he is our Father. Ladies and gentlemen, have you spent even one day before our God, our Father, shedding tears of repentance because you empathize with him? How can you stand before God and still close your eyes as if to block out how he bites his tongue and endure as human beings who inherited the lineage of the devil and became the tools of Satan? How can you be so insensitive to how God anxiously look forward to the day of his liberation and release? When Jesus was on the cross, God had to turn away and allow his beloved son to be killed. Who knew the wretchedness in God's mind and the heart at that moment? The Bible does not explain it, but was there some reason why God couldn't not intervene to prevent his son's death? Likewise, We think that God should have stood on the side of his chosen one, seeing the suffering persecution wherever they went, beaten, decapitated, and burned in pitch. We might ask, why was God not able to prevent this? Instead, you should think how grievous and distressed God was that he could not exercise his almighty power to save them. How can we still say that he is the most high God? What kind of God is our Father? He has walked the most tragic path through the course of history. He has suffered tragedies more horrible than any human tragedy. When God saw his children languishing in sorrow and suffering and despair, he did not say, "You deserve it." Our Father worked to save his children, pierced with sorrow by placing himself in the greater sorrow. He worked to save his children, mourning in pain by going to a place of even greater pain. He did not hesitate even to go to his death to save his children who were on the verge of death. Once we understand this, how should we live? If we see a beautiful old person on the street bent over with age, we should think that is what my father must look like as he seeks after me. When we see a labored, swollen hand, we should think my father's hands are even more torn up and swollen than this. And when we see a beautiful beggar, we should think this beggar is not a beggar, instead, he is my father, and humbly bow our heads. With We should shed tears with the understanding that each of these people is our father, and when we should cast aside our dignity and help them, this is the only way we will come to know God. So powerful salvation quotes for today. If you have difficulties today, please watch one more time this video. Share this video as we end this billion happy life subscribers marathon. Comment with your ideas, what you think about, how it helped you. Contact me for consultation, cooperation, and to become a member of Heavenly Parents Holy Community globally. Wish you a great blessed day. All the best. Bye bye.